The Ducks suffer a weekend power outage against the Bay Area schools. Meanwhile, Stanford couldn't miss from the field in the second half, leaving Oregon sitting in 7th place in the conference. The Beavers and Bears mixed it up in a physical grudge match at Gill. Oregon State rode the senior day wave of emotion to a double-digit lead in the first half, but the scrappy Golden Bears kept chipping away. With a chance to lock up the Pac-10's regular season crown on a final game at Old Pauley Pavilion, the Wildcats ran into a buzzsaw as the Bruins stayed in the hunt for first. The final week of the season is here. March Madness is right around the corner, and we've got it all on this final February edition of Inside the Pac.
Tried to free himself, and then Cunningham called for a foul in midcourt for a reach-in. And now pushing and shoving. Burton just shoved Sanders Friesen. He just made contact with Sanders Friesen behind the play.
It's getting serious as we head for the final weekend of Pac-10 conference play. All 10 teams scrapping for position with the conference tournament looming. Hello and welcome to another edition of Inside the Pac. I am Tom Ward and joined as always by Nick Krupke. And Nick, just a week ago we were sitting here talking about the Ducks being tied for 4th place. That seems like eons ago now. They get swept at home by Cal and Stanford and frankly just look bad doing it.
He looked before this weekend, they were kind of playing above and beyond from where the early season was. The big thing to me was the shooting ability. The shots were starting to fall, shooting about 45, 50% sometimes. Less than 37 against Stanford. It's really kind of hurt them, and tough on senior day for JR and Javon not to get a chance to win. But you remember last year Duke already had a senior day at Mac Court as they beat Washington State.
He said, I probably had more senior days than anybody in school history.
Right, but he was so big to this year, and it's not over yet, but certainly what he was able to do with all these young guys and kind of be another coach is kind of how Altman kind of referred to him and JR, so it'll be tough to lose those guys, but hopefully a lot of the youth that hung around kind of saw how he worked and how JR worked and kept the spirits up when things were going bad, and we'll see where they rebound now from this.
Well, you mentioned the shooting percentage. I think maybe the bigger number is Stanford's shooting percentage in that second half. 65%. It seemingly all the shots were dropping as both the visitors this weekend had big shooting days, and really Stanford's length with Green, Josh Owens, Dwight Powell, they really gave Oregon problems, and the Ducks afterwards said, we beat this team last month. They didn't really understand it.
Yeah, a little bit of redemption factor for Stanford for the first time in a quarter century that Oregon won down there. We talked about the length, though, earlier in the season where, Catron's our biggest guy. Neres certainly brings some ability down low, too, but Stanford has just got such a big wingspan down there, and they talked about all those rebounds. I mean, that was a huge difference. The rebounds and the second chance points we'll get into in a little bit, but that made all the difference in that second half.
Yeah, we talked about the visitors having hot shooting second halves. Yeah. Cal goes into Gill, shoots 63% in the second half, overcomes a double-digit lead against the Beavers, really pushes the Beavers around as we saw in that opening clip and comes out with a win.
They would outscored them 49-32 in that second half. A real hot team in the second for Cal this weekend. They've won now 3 in a row. You look back to the last Sunday's game with UCLA where they won that in double overtime. So they seem to be clicking right now. But Cal certainly a big second half team that we have seen. And for them, we knew they were physical, and that certainly showed off. You saw the technical fouls in the open of the show there. Kind of got into the Beavers' heads a little bit, but certainly Cal is a team that uses their ability too. I mean, they got to the line 31 times, 40 fouls whistled in that game on Saturday. It's really tough to watch at some point in time.
Second half took forever.
You better believe it.
Yeah, well, lots to talk about here in this show as we, with 1 week left, have lots of jockeying for position. The regular season conference crown still up for grabs. Coming into Saturday, 4-2 in their new building, the Ducks had to finish strong if they wanted a chance to extend their season at Knight Arena with the possibility of hosting a game in the NIT or CBI. The regular season home finale was Stanford senior day for fifth-year guys Jovan Catron and J.R. Strobridge. First half, Oregon came out on fire. In transition, Garrett Sim up top for Tyrone Narrett. He throws it down. Ducks up 5. Later, E.J. Singler spotted up for 3. He knocks it down. It's 8-0 Oregon right out of the gate in those new home grays, but Stanford began to chip away, tied at 18. Jeremy Green, check out the friendly roll. That goes in. Cardinal on top for the first time, 21-18, just before the half. Josh Owens, the turnaround, makes it Cardinal by 9 at 41-32. Owens on his way to a big day. The Ducks were out-rebounded 36-21. Anthony Brown puts it back in traffic. Stanford up 43-34 at the break. We go to the second half. Malcolm Armstead slaps the ball loose, then gets out in front for the lay-in. Oregon down 49-36, team high 22 for Armstead, who got the start. But Josh Owens had an even better day. Off the miss, inside, Owens, one of 12 second chance points for the Cardinal, 9 offensive rebounds, a game high 31 for Owens. It's 53-36. Malcolm, though, kept the Ducks in it for a while, hits the corner three. Oregon down 13, 62-49, but the Cardinal pulled away from there. Jeremy Green into the lane, hits the fadeaway turnaround, 67-49, Green with 15. Then Jarrett Mann gets into the act, gets into the lane, draws the foul. It's a 20-point lead, so once flying so high, the Ducks dropped their last 2 games at home at Matt Knight Arena. 88-71, Stanford shot 59% in the game, 65% in the second half. Owens with that 31 points. The Ducks held him to just 4 in the first meeting there in Palo Alto.
Yeah, certainly that would be the difference in the game. Now, Oregon shot 36% from the field, just 31 in that second half. Malcolm Armstead's team high 22, also a season high for the junior point guard. The Ducks now wrap up the regular season Thursday at Arizona State, then Saturday at co-league leading Arizona. The Ducks were down after the loss, especially after the fact that they couldn't quite pick up a win for those 2 seniors and the home crowd that really rallied behind this team the past month and a half when they really made their run. And if the Ducks don't return home for an NIT or a CBI bid, they went 4-3 at the new house, but they were in trouble with so much length down there by the trees, in the trees, as Stanford got that redemption for the loss last month. Lopsided stat on the glass, outboarded 36-21, 12 second chance points for Stanford, 9 offensive boards. Owens came away with 5 of those in the offensive end, 32-20 scoring in the paint for Stanford. They also collected 20 points off Oregon turnovers, which were so big in that second half too. And the Cardinals shot the lights out. We talked about that. Season best for them, 59%. And afterwards, JR said the Ducks may have lost something now on the defensive end this weekend, which they relied on so much when they were learning how to win and had a tough time scoring to start the season. You look at offensively, 36% shooting for Oregon, their lowest total now since New Year's Day. That loss at home at McCourt to ASU, only one of the Devils' 2 Pac-10 wins. They are the team that is up next on Thursday. And you look at, we talked about last week, maybe an NIT bid. You're looking at 14-14. Maybe that goes away a little bit, unless you can do something special at Arizona and maybe even more special at the Pac-10 tournament.
And then, yeah, win a game in the Pac-10 tournament, maybe give somebody a run in the second round. You know, the other thing that kind of got lost in all the shuffle here, no senior day before the game. Now, you saw what happened at Oregon State. The Beavers sort of rode that senior day emotion, got out to a double-digit lead. We've seen Oregon do that in the past, in years past, when maybe their team maybe was a little bit overmatched on the court. They used that. But they didn't have that because they had it after the game. And furthermore, Jovan and JR are out there. Half the fans had already left the building.
It was tough because they were down double digits.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people maybe knew that they were going to have that afterward,
Right.
but it's something that Altman did at Creighton. He likes that tradition, doesn't like the hubbub before the game to kind of take guys' minds off it. But I agree with you. It does kind of maybe add a little more juice to the guys, say, hey, this is it. Let's go and get it done for these guys.
Not to mention, you get, if you're the senior, you get that feel-good before the game. No matter what happens in the game, you've already had your feel-good moment. Yeah, certainly. Well, for weeks now, the Beaver men had been saying all they needed to do was find a spark to light their fire to escape a month-long funk. The heat source finally came with Thursday's win over Stanford. Would it flame out, though, on senior day with Cal? Let's go to Gill Coliseum. Calvin Haynes, Lathan Wallace, Amari Johnson, and Daniel Dean, the last links to the J. John coaching regime. It's Cal's first game since getting into trouble with the NCAA for improper phone calls made by assistants, including former Beaver head man J. John. Beavs actually opened hot. Jared Cunningham, the Bay Area kid, with the alley-oop, makes it 8-1 Oregon State. Cunningham broke Gary Payton's sophomore steals record already. Here's another swipe and slam. 20-12 Beavs. Jared with 14. Ahmad Starks a nice first half. Windy City freshman hits the long 2. 12 of his 18 in the first, makes it 34-23. Beavers led by as many as 14, but Cal stuck around. Alan Crabb claws the loose ball, sinks the 3, cuts the lead to just 6. Game high 26 for Crabb. Second half, Jorge Gutierrez ties the game at 48. He had 14. A minute later, Richard Solomon opened down low, hooping the harm. Cal up 2. Then things begin to get chippy. Bears are a physical ball club, tempers flaring. Calvin Haynes gives a forearm shiver to Brandon Smith. Joe Burton gets in there, mixes it up. Technical fouls for both sides as multiple guys get involved. Later, Calvin Haynes rips the ball loose and finishes on the other end. Beavers back up 65-64. Oregon State leads the nation in steals. They had 12 in this game. Less than 5 to play. Amari Johnson knocks down a corner 3, but the Beavers down 4, 78-74, and Cal closed out the game on a 9-2 run. Gutierrez with the steal and the lay-in. He is tough. Golden Bears go on to win. 87-76 the final. The Bears shot 63% from the field in the game. Krabs 6 of 8 from beyond the arc. On his way to a 26-point outing, the Bears completed the weekend sweep of the Oregon schools.
Yeah, and after shooting nearly 60% in that first half when they were going good, the Beavers shot 34 in the second. They now fall to 5-11 in the Pac. A good sign, though, the Wildcats on the horizon Thursday. The Beavers, the only Pac-10 team so far to beat both UW and Arizona already this season. And coming into Saturday, the Beavers knew what the Bears were, a very physical team, much like UCLA, and they can quickly get under your skin. 40 fouls were whistled in the game, 5 technicals, 3 of those tees going against the Beavers. A lot of the calls and a lot of the non-calls has to eat at both the team and the fan base, and it sure seemed like Oregon State fizzled after that altercation in the second half. From that point on, they were outscored 28-15 as Cal really just owned that second half, coming from 14 down in the first, 6 down at the break to win by 17. 72% second half shooting from the boys from Berkeley, 63% in the game, and a bunch of forced turnovers also devastated some of those Beaver possessions when they were falling behind. So the defending champs now from the Pac-10, California's won 3 straight and are 5th in the conference. And those texts and the emotions kind of ran over. Not the reason that they lost, maybe, but you add in senior day and their old coach again, Jay John, on the other side of the bench. Those 4 guys, the last link to the old coaching regime, they weren't going to give in. We talked about the last couple, 2-3 years, guys like Calvin and Lathan, recruited by John, who maybe didn't make all the phone calls to get those guys there. We learned this week. But for those guys, they want to beat their old coach where they had so much failure when he was there, couldn't quite get it done.
Well, certainly. It's a tough deal for those guys. And Jay John now, you know, he was there to sort of talk to them before the game. Now Craig Robinson can look to the future as they got a couple games left in this regular season, the Pac-10 tournament. Can be excited about what he's got coming up on the plate because he's given the young guys, they've gotten their growing pains.
They've taken their lumps. You look at the backcourt, Jared, and with Ahmad, certainly a thing to build on. You think you maybe want to get somebody else down low, though. I mean, Brandt's a guy who's still trying to figure it out, but you got to like what you see in Collier, too.
Certainly. With 2 games to go in the regular season and the Pac-10 tournament looming, the Ducks' postseason hopes hang in the balance. Still to come on Inside the Pac. More from Matt Knight as Oregon fell flat against Stanford and now has to finish up on the road.
We didn't put bodies on bodies to eliminate their height that they had. So when we didn't do that, we let them use their height. That was what's wrong today.
Plus, first place on the line at Pauley Pavilion, Bruins and Cats coming up later in the show. And as always, lots more Beavers, Ducks, and the rest of the Pac-10 online all the time at our website, InsideThePac.com. We'll be back after this.